Welcome to the Monday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. A wet start to the week. Man, was it humid over the weekend or what? My goodness, it felt like one of those late June, July weekends as opposed to the first real full weekend of September-ish. And it was just sticky and it was awful. Alistair Alders, our weather specialist, tells me that the system that's responsible for this rain today and through the rest of the day today and into tomorrow, maybe a little bit, anyway, is going to change the air mass because there's a cold front that moves in with this. So hopefully we'll get rid of some of that humidity. I know we need the precipitation. I know that when it's humid, we get relative humidity days, and it's good for all the dryness out there, but it was just sticky. At least it was in my apartment this weekend. My goodness. I spent some time in my apartment this weekend watching the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're now making it interesting, to say the least, in the American League East. 2 games up on the Yankees after dropping 2 of 3 on the weekend. Now they're home to the Astros starting tomorrow. We're getting down to the nuts and bolts of the regular season here, and of course, you can catch all of the action right here on 95.7 News Radio. The hockey world lost a legend over the weekend. Former Montreal goaltender Ken Dryden, Toronto Maple Leafs general manager, author, federal cabinet minister, died at the age of 78. Now, just put this into your hockey brain for a second. He played 8 seasons. He was in the league for 9 seasons, took a year off because he went and finished a law degree. Of those 8 seasons, he won the Stanley Cup 6 times and was a Vezina Trophy winner 5 of 8. So that is that's pretty good by anybody's estimation, and has been a guest on this program a couple of times. I had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Dryden right about this time last year, so the world's going to be missing him. And don't forget, he was also in the nets for Team Canada during the Summit Series. A hockey legend gone at 78. It is Monday, and that means it is time for us to, of course, open up the telephone lines and welcome into the studio and onto the phone a pair of our councillors. For our councillors on the hot seat and sitting across from me in the studio today, District 11, Spryfield, Sambro Loop. Hope I got it all right. And that's Patty Cuttell. Patty, how are you?
Good morning, Dan. I am well, glad to see the rain, and really happy to be here and look forward to taking calls this morning.
It was a sticky weekend, wasn't it?
It was a sticky weekend, but we need the humidity, we need the rain. It's but it's the end of summer. I don't know, like it.
Yeah, well, I don't know what it is with me, and maybe our listeners are the same way, but when the calendar flips to September, you kind of want to get on with the season, right? You're like, okay, summer is technically over, and, you're not expecting it to be like it was this past weekend. Also in the studio today, making his last second appearance. I won't call you late, Sam, but I will say that you got in just under the wire. That, of course, is District 5 councillor from Dartmouth Centre, and that is Sam Austin. Sam, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hang on. We got to make sure Vanessa's got the mics on. Are we there again? Sam, are you there?
I am.
Okay. Let's see.
As far as I know, anyway.
Sounds like you're off mic a little bit. Let me try that again. Hello? Sam?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. We're having a mic issue. Maybe
try to move chairs here.
Let's go to the middle here and see if that one's working as everybody does the shuffle here. Live radio is a wonderful thing, is it not? How's that one? This one sounds better.
Live.
All right. That one sounds better. That voice is Sam Austin, and welcome to the studio, sir. This is Councillors on the Hot Seat, of course. That means you can give us a call. The telephone number is 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Sam, you're doing such a fine job at that, I might just hire you on. my personal assistant.
The shuffling of the equipment as well.
There you go. Before we get to the phone lines, and again, I'll run those numbers, 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. I would be remiss if I didn't ask. We'll start with Patty. Patty, what's happening in the lovely district of District 11 these days?
Oh, you know what? There's always something going on in District 11. On the weekend, I had the opportunity to drop by the new Herring Cove Community Center, which has been years in the making, and it's a it's an amazing new local facility. It came about through the support of HRM, the province, the federal government, and in particular, a lot of volunteers who have dedicated time and effort over many years to make this happen. And so I just want to congratulate them on their opening, and hope to see some great things there.
Did it have the new community center smell, like the new car smell?
It did. It did, and it's all empty right now. Like
Right.
the furniture's all kind of stored away, but it's all looking very new and fresh. And also in Herring Cove, it's been a big week for Herring Cove. Also had the grand opening of a brand new accessible playground at William King Elementary, which was also many years in the making. And I want to give a shout out to the parents who helped make that happen and worked with me in the province. To see that new playground put in place. So that was great fun. We had a ribbon cutting and popsicles, and there was an ice cream social with the curriculum night. But the excitement of kids in elementary school coming to school and having
It's
a new
infectious,
playground, right? It was
it's
brought
a
a
lot of
big
fun.
smile to many people's faces.
Sam, District 5, busy place.
It's always busy. The main thing I think that's kind of noteworthy on the agenda right now is actually at tomorrow's council meeting, where we have the Dartmouth Cove report coming before us. And I know some folks in the community have organized their own public meeting by the community group that's taking place this evening. So there's a lot of eyes and interest on that over in Dartmouth.
So while we're on that subject, we might as well dig right into it. I understand at least the recommendation is to defer that. Why are we deferring that?
So the staff recommendation is to defer because we've got a bigger waterfront planning piece that's underway in Dartmouth right now, and the schedule, if things land on time, that would come forward late next year. So staff are recommending to defer for that. There's also some question as to whether or not we actually have support from the other orders of government that are needed to actually bring forward any bylaw amendments. I don't particularly agree with the staff recommendation, and I'm looking to move an alternative for Tuesday that would have us instead do for Dartmouth Cove what has already been done in the Northwest Arm and bring forward restrictions that would prevent basically just one-off infill. You should have your restrictions in place, and then if the outcome of your waterfront plan is that, okay, these are areas we want development, these are areas we want new public facilities, you then allow that based on the plan, not just kind of letting whatever happen and hoping that it might align with your future plan.
So as it stands right now, if it is deferred, there are no current rules on that, right? They can carry on?
Well, the rules right now are all at the federal level, right? You need your federal permits, but the feds, they look at things through a very narrow lens of, does this affect fish? Does this impact navigation? There's a jurisdictional gap out there because they don't do urban planning, right? So they don't have that kind of community vision for what your community is going to look like. That's not something the feds do. So that piece happens at the municipal level, but we don't have jurisdiction. So the two of us, feds and municipality, need to work together to solve that. The feds need to extend their jurisdiction to us as they have with the Northwest Arm, and then we have to do our own work as to what we actually want for the future of the community.
Councillor Cuttell, sorry?
I'm familiar with a little bit of this jurisdictional work through the infill issues on the Northwest Arm, and getting protection for the Northwest Arm from infill took many years, many meetings, stakeholder group consultations, work from HRM and work from our federal representatives as well. When you're working cross-jurisdictionally, it's never quick. So, it sounds like, Sam is on top of this and getting the pieces in place, and we'll see where it goes from here.
902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Very quickly before we get to the phone lines, there's a number of callers there. Councillor Austin, I also saw on the agenda this week, you're going to bring a motion forward to take a second look at the so-called, and I'm putting quotations around it, sunshine list. If I read the motion correctly, you're looking to change that dollar figure from $100,000 to more. I guess the first question is why?
So this has come about. I've been contacted by folks in police and fire, primarily employees that are like, "Why is my salary being disclosed? I'm just a police officer, just a firefighter. I don't have any management oversight. I don't control what my salary is." Because the Sunshine List, I mean, the purpose of these things is to disclose pay for basically management type roles, right? Like, what are the senior folks making, and for them to be accountable and publicly, and for that to be publicly available. We don't currently have an escalation clause in the Sunshine List, so it literally, like, just every year it's the same amount, but inflation, wage increases, they continue, and so eventually, if you don't ever change it, it just becomes a list of all your employees someday. So you need some sort of adjustment mechanism, because otherwise it's not really doing what it originally purported to do. And I think you either put in a clause just increasing it by inflation, or you define what positions you actually want to disclose, right? Where there might be some, maybe someone's on secondment part-time, but it's in management level. Maybe their salary should be disclosed. And instead define, well, what is actually the purpose here? We want to disclose what the senior ranks, like maybe the non-union, is making.
Well, don't we get a better idea of and I know with the firefighters and with particularly the police officers that are on the list, that they end up on that list because of all the overtime they're working, and us lay people can figure out that there's a shortage there. Why change it now? Why all of a sudden is $100,000 too much? Is it because we're making so much money?
Well, it hasn't been changed since 2016, so it just keeps on going on and on at the original figure. It's never been adjusted. Like I said, the reason that I'm putting this forward is we've had employees from police and fire reach out to me saying, why is my salary being disclosed, right? Like, people who don't necessarily want to have their salary figure out there for all their neighbors and friends.
Councillor Cuttell?
Councillor Austin raises some good points. Fire and police are one of our biggest budget items. Understanding where those costs go is important. Perhaps looking at the entire envelope and the number of people employed in those services is enough. I look forward to the discussion. I think some transparency around what municipal employees make is important and should be disclosed. And we'll see where council lands on this. But I think it's worth having that discussion about how do we keep the public informed. And when you look at our annual budget, when you see these big budget items, people want to know what's driving those costs.
Right.
If I could just note just two other thoughts that have occurred just on this. Well, the one is we see the overall wage number, right? Like how much HRM is paying out in salaries. That's part of the budget. And of course, for our unionized employees, they all work under collective agreements, and all the collective agreements have a classification for each position that give you the wage range. So, in the absence of this, it's not like there's suddenly just a mysterious black box in which you don't know. You just don't know what Joe Smith maybe is making.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Councillors on the Hot Seat continues. We're going to take our first break and then get to the phones. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back. This is Councillors on the Hot Seat on the Todd Veinotte Show on a Monday. The telephone lines are open, 902-405-6000. That's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Let's take our first call this morning, and that comes from Tim. Tim, how are you?
Morning, Dan. Morning, Councillors. How are you?
We're great,
Good.
Thanks.
Good. My call doesn't really have anything to do with either or, but I do have a concern, that being with the councillor for Upper Sackville. I've called a number of times, about every 3 weeks over a period of months, about a curb that's in front of the driveway that's breaking away and starting to impact the driveway, as well as a tree that's unfortunately died and belongs to the city, to see if I could get both either one repaired and one fixed. But for whatever reason, And each time I've called, and you'd have to give me the benefit of the doubt here, I've left my name, phone number, date, any of the particulars. I've offered pictures of either or the tree or the curb. And unfortunately, the staff at 311 have been absolutely great, very attentive, but I can't say the same for the councillor. And matter of fact, I think of all the times that I've called, and I think I've received one call back from the councillor, and I'd like to get the issue. I know that they may not be priority items, and I respect that, and everything has a time and a place. But for whatever reason, I've not been able to obtain any information as it relates to getting both one fixed or one repaired or both repaired. And as a taxpayer, it's extremely frustrating. So I'd like to hear what I may be able to do. I think Gloria was on a few weeks ago and said you can file a complaint. Unfortunately, that's not the route I want to go, but if that's where I need to go, that's fine. But like I say, everyone has a job to do, and at the end of the day, people get paid to provide a service, and respectfully, I don't think the councillor in Upper Sackville is providing that service.
Sam, you want to take it?
Sure. I'm a little fuzzy on my Sackville geography. Would that be Councillor Young or Councillor Gillis?
Young.
Okay, so we're in council tomorrow. I'll mention this to him. It sounds like you've called 311, eh?
I've called 311.
Okay.
Basically every 3 weeks-ish, okay? I'm not calling every day. I'm not calling every week. But I do call about every 3 weeks. When I call 311, I usually call Mr. Young's cell phone and leave a voicemail message. And for whatever reason, like I say, he's been non-responsive, which is always disappointing because no response is a response.
Yeah. So I'll mention it to him tomorrow when I see him at council. It sounds like you've done everything, by the book in terms of you've logged both the driveway piece and the dead tree piece. There would be through 311 work orders created for both. They would be then assessed for priority. I know for trees, it can sometimes take weeks to months before they come up. Every now and then I have to follow up on one in my district that someone contacts me about and just ask the foresters where it is on the list type thing. So I think your work, because it is fairly routine type stuff that we have to deal with like regularly, I don't have a lot of concern that your work isn't on a queue somewhere. It's just a matter of it coming up to the top of it where you have logged this already.
And that's fine. But, it may be in the queue. I guess the question I would ask that I would like the answer to is, if available, where in the queue is it?
Yeah.
Will it be done? Will it be done before October? Will it be done before November? Or will it be done next year? Because, as I said, as it relates to the curb in front of the driveway, the longer this goes on, the more it infringes on the driveway or the asphalt, and that's creating a problem for myself.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I just like to get answers to either or. I understand they may not be priority items, but I would like to get both fixed, if at all possible, sooner rather than later.
Okay. I will mention it to Councillor Young. One of the things, and, none of us at council, myself included, none of us ever bat 100 here. I know for myself, if I get swamped with phone calls, it is an area that is hard to catch up on. And the best thing, I don't know if Councillor Young makes his coordinator's number available, is to follow up with staff side, because what happens for me is someone then calls Michelle, who runs my world, and she puts it in my calendar, and then it most definitely does happen. So if you haven't tried that one yet, reaching out to Councillor Young's coordinator would probably be a good avenue.
Well, I haven't tried that because, like I say, I've either tried calling Mr. Young's cell phone directly or 311. Okay, and like I say, every time I've called, I've left the date, time, my cell phone number, that sort of thing, and the particulars. But for whatever reason, and he can only explain himself, he hasn't, except for once, he hasn't taken the opportunity to call me back, which is frustrating because I understand we all get busy, but at the end of the day, people get paid to provide a service, and I'm not saying it's a priority item, but I'd just like to get both fixed.
Yeah.
All right, Tim.
We'll bring it up tomorrow.
Appreciate the call,
I
sir.
appreciate it. Thank you.
902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. We hear this a lot, right? We hear a lot of people that go through the process and they do the 311 and they do what they're supposed to do, but then it kind of, just it gets lost. And not lost is not the right word, but has there ever been discussion about maybe publishing where things are, where files are, or people can track this kind of thing when they put a request in to have a tree removed or have a curb fix, that they can see where it is at and what state it's at?
I don't recall ever a conversation about it, but I mean, HRM is in this funny spot where we're not a small city anymore, but we're also not a big city.
Right.
And it makes some of these sort of slicker things harder to pull off, while at the same time, the just calling up the clerk's office and someone's got a spreadsheet handy is also really not viable. We're kind of the awkward teenager in between.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if people have the numbers from 311, generally, if I get a call like that, I can pass it on to my coordinator. I share a coordinator with Sam, actually.
Michelle's pretty good, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she's good, and I think we keep her pretty busy too. But following up on things like that, it is time consuming. But you need the reference number, and generally, the coordinators can look in the system and get a sense of where it is in the queue. Things like when there's something like trees, I know that staff will often do an area like we have a large municipality, right? So different areas will get done at once. It's not sending someone people off on individual tasks all over the place. So there's some coordination to it too, which can take time. But to the caller's point, just knowing that information, just like knowing oh yeah, you're in the queue and it will happen next month. Eases some anxiety or answers some questions which give people faith in the system.
Right.
It's the it's when you don't know that always just causes questions, and you don't know if the system's working. So there is some work to be done there. I agree.
Till abruptly, 7 months later, suddenly there's a work crew out front tackling the tree just out of the blue.
Right. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Joe to the program. Joe, how are you?
Morning. Thanks for taking my call, Dan.
Yep.
I have a question for either counselor, both the counselors, and they probably, because of their district location, this problem I'm calling about probably isn't that prevalent there, but I don't know. And that's how the council monitors and legislates any kind of control over the avian wildlife in HRM. I live in I won't call it a high rise, but it's a medium rise apartment building on Bayers Road, and we're absolutely inundated with pigeons, with their feces, and that's why I'm calling primarily. Feces is everywhere. It's coating the decks, the railings, the walkways, the windows. Cars were getting. I went out the other day and had something I'd never had before, and had a pigeon crap on my hat. So it's very bad. It's gotten out of control, and I've done a number of cursory things to try to address it. The logical first step would be the building management, and that is absolutely pointless. Call the mayor's office. I called the Department of Health and heard absolutely nothing back. I was told back a while ago by one of the managers who was here for a short while. There's quite a turnstile of people coming and going in here, that City Council won't allow people to take any measures regarding any chemicals in pigeon feed to help cull them or get rid of them. I'm not really articulating. I mean, I'm limited for time. I could go on probably for half an hour about this, but it's becoming extremely problematic. The feces are highly toxic, and there's some negative manifestations I won't go into that we're experiencing. The mice that are in the building, and worms coming out of the mice because they're eating the pigeon feces, and
Holy smokes.
One seems to want. No one, yeah.
All right, Joe, we're up against the break here, Joe. I'm going to cut you down there a little bit so that the counselors have a chance to answer. Thanks for the call. Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, so Pigeon Man here. It's not something that the municipality regulates. I think whatever you do with pigeons would be a Department of Natural Resources. You could contact like a pest company, or the building management really should, because there is a whole license process to go through that. Like the days of people just randomly poisoning the outside world are kind of over. But it's not HRMs to regulate. Where we do have some rules that apply to birds is we do have a restriction on feeding wildlife if it's causing a nuisance, which certainly sounds like there's a nuisance here. So, if there's, kind of someone down in the parking lot spreading bird seed around, that's something that could be actionable through a bylaw complaint. And then they would investigate to determine if it violates or not.
I would imagine if it's that serious, and I know Joe's called before, but would Department of Health maybe, would that be?
I'm honestly not sure. This kind of crosses outside of my usual territory.
Whenever we have the District 5 council here, we have to ask him about the ducks and the geese, more particularly.
Also not allowed to feed, right? Specifically.
And they are still obviously alive and thriving well at Sullivan's Pond.
Yes. And we have actually, on that same kind of topic, I digress a little bit, we have had a bird feeding issue up at Big Alborough Lake, where we're trying to educate people as to if you feed the ducks up there, you attract more of them to the beach area, and all that duck poop goes into the lake, and then that closes the beach down, because we have had a long-standing thing of people feeding the ducks out of that parking lot. So there's new signage up at Big Alborough, and we're trying to do some education type stuff on that.
Sorry, we didn't have a better answer for you, Joe. Department of Natural Resources, maybe, and please keep us in the loop, because that sounds like it's becoming an even more serious issue than the last time we chatted about it. We have to stop, take a break for the news. On the other side of it, Councillors on the Hot Seat will continue. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand, back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the Monday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. It is Councillors on the Hot Seat. 902-405-6000 is the number. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We'll go directly to the phones, and we welcome Gloria to the program. Gloria, how are you?
I'm well, Dan. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
And good morning, councillors. My conversation is with my councillor, Sam. Sam, several weeks ago, I was at a concert with about 300 people, and during the intermission, the question was, why would Sam Austin vote to rescind the Morris Street and then add it back in? How irresponsible is that? So I shook my head. I don't know. But the next chance I get, I will ask him. Last time you were on, Sam, I wasn't here. So I'm now asking you the question.
Okay, Gloria. I think I covered this in my council blog already, but I wanted it back in because we're going back to look at all our options. And so this is one of the options, and it might very well be that council wants to take a decision of, you know what, this was the best course of action, and one of the things we might want to do is just wait.
Well, why did you vote to rescind it?
Gloria,
was you didn't want the Premier writing a letter.
Sorry?
You said, I don't want the Premier with a letter on record from the Premier.
Well, we're better off in terms of the municipality to not have an order from the province actually out there, because that preserves our ability to revisit the issue if we want to in future, or if we don't, we can just let it be. Not having an actual order out there is to our strategic benefit. So that's why I voted to rescind, and then turned around and voted to put it back on so it could be considered alongside all the other options.
And you know how childish that was? How childish that
it's
seems.
It's not childish. It's an action.
And
it's.
Let me finish, Sam.
Okay.
Be respectful.
Well, chuckling away at an answer is not very respectful, Gloria.
Respect works both ways.
Go back to the code of conduct. I'm not under that. You are. Part of it is be respectful to the public. So both
I
you
think
and Patty
respect
Cuttell
is
better learn
earned,
that.
Gloria. I
Anyway.
mean, you call this show accusing me of being a puppet of Wayne Mason,
Yes.
slamming everything I have to do.
And
You're
I'm
not a
I
regular
wanna-
member of the public. Like you're just not.
I am a regular member of the public that I served over here for 23 and a half years. But the other question I have, Sam, is then you made the motion that the mayor had to write to the premier with the results of the vote. So the mayor's letter would have to go like this. Mr. Premier, the motion was rescinded. However, at the end of the motion, Councillor Austin added it back in. That would be the letter going to the Premier?
I haven't seen the text of whatever was sent. I mean, I think it would probably just say that council has rescinded the motion and is going back to look at design solutions. That is one of them. There's also the other options, because that's what happened.
It wouldn't say that, Sam. It would have to say that
neither of
you
us have
voted
actually
to put
seen
it
the
back
letter.
in. It would have to say that you voted to put it back in.
I don't think that's what it would have to say, Gloria. I think it would be enough to say, because what all the council is instructed at this point is to go back and look. If you could let me finish, all that council is instructed at this point is we've rescinded the motion, which we did, and we're looking at all the design options. We can disagree. You don't have to sit there chuckling.
That would be misleading, Sam.
I don't think it would be misleading. It's what we've actually done.
Yeah, I know it's what you've actually done. I know that. My other question is, Sam, have you heard, or do you know how disappointed the people of Slater Street are?
I've been engaged in their Facebook group. I've heard from many of them.
No
There's a section. No, there was lots of consultation. We had 2 rounds of public engagement. We had it come before Harbour East Community Council. We had it come before Regional Council. The design that we actually have gone forward with has been informed directly by feedback from residents, because with the section across the common wasn't even on staff's radar until we started consultation. Again, you don't have to like me. You don't have to like the answers, but a little bit of respect.
Hey, Sam, like doesn't enter into it.
Well, you're asking a question, and there's a sneer on the edge of your breath here.
Sam, did you read all the emails and all the Facebook from the residents of Slater Street?
Yes.
And you say that you consulted with them?
Yes. And in fact, there is... I'll say it. There are folks in that area that support the project, but do you want to go on to Facebook and fight with your neighbor over something that a neighbor is really worked up about? In fact, there was the one person in the Herald article that referenced exactly that, who was supportive of it, but didn't want their name used for fear of backlash from their neighborhood. Like, it's not a project that everybody likes, but to say that everyone in the neighborhood is against it is not accurate.
Well, from the people I've talked to, a great number of them are against it, Sam. Maybe somebody living on a side street that isn't affected. But the majority of the people, I can tell you, because I've talked to them, are against it. And you made the comment, Sam, I know people don't like it, but I'm doing it anyway.
That's not what I said. No, I said not everybody likes it. I mean, in our role here, as you well know, because you used to sit in this chair, you can't please everybody all the time. Any decision is going to have people who are against it. Any decision is going to have people that are for it. You try and take in all the evidence, all the kind of points on it, and you make the best decision you can from it.
But you look to the majority. You look to the majority, Sam. And you don't have your own agenda. And then, Sam,
the majority isn't just the people who've contacted you and who the angriest voices on a neighborhood Facebook group. If that's how we were going to govern.
You wanted to put traffic lights at the end of Slater, a block from the Woodland Avenue lights.
So there's a light going to go there anyway as part of this project. It's going to be what they call a half signal. So it's the same sort of light that is in front of the bridge terminal there by McDonald's, where a pedestrian presses and you get a red light. So the pitch that I had to traffic was like, well, there's folks on Vanessa who are concerned about coming out and not having, having to make a left turn across either Victoria or Woodland. Would it be possible, instead of doing a half signal, to make that a full signal, so that if it could be on a sensor, and then if there's a car there trying to come out, they would actually get a signal to exit. So that was the ask.
That wouldn't cause any congestion, Sam.
Well, there's a signal already going there, so it was an idea to explore with traffic. Traffic has some concerns about it, so it's probably not going anywhere, but I still want to have a further conversation with them about it.
And then you called it Woodlawn. Anyway, it is Woodland Avenue, Sam.
I know it's Woodland, and if there was a slip of the tongue in there, my apologies.
I know. Every once in a while, somebody makes a slip of the tongue. I know that. But anyway, the people are very unhappy with you and with the plans that you have for one of the most beautiful streets in the city. So anyway, I'll leave it at that, Sam, but I think you better consider listening to the residents a little more and paying attention to what is going on in your district. So I thank you very much and have a great day.
Thanks, Gloria. 902-405-6000.
With respect, I absolutely do listen to my residents. This design was informed by residents. The design was changed along the way because of resident feedback. If people expected me not to be a bike-friendly councillor, you should have read my election platform. I specifically had in there, complete the regional center bike network. I'm doing what I promised to do.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. We're up against the break. Councillors on the Hot Seat continues on the other side. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back in minutes.
Thanks.
Okay, we're back. This is Monday, and it is Councillors on the Hot Seats. 902-405-6000 is the number. 902-405-6000. Let's get to the phones and get as many calls in as we can. We welcome Ed to the show. Ed, how are you?
Good. How are you today?
Good.
Got a couple questions for the councillors.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm a common sense kind of person. I'm going to give you a couple examples here. You can tell me you agree with what I'm saying, or you can say I disagree and you're not doing anything. If you do think you agree with me, if you could jot a couple of things down and tell whoever needs to be to change this, it would be appreciated. Going downtown to pick up my son this summer from a Dow camp, that infamous no turn right on a red light on the corner of Jubilee and Oxford. I never thought it should have been put there. That's a very, very busy intersection where people need to turn right. They finally put a light there with the signal. I'm sitting there. The people on Oxford get the green flashing light to turn left, and the symbol's red. It should be green because the pedestrian can't walk at that time, and 6 to 10 cars could turn right there and get less congestion. Is there any way, do you agree with what I'm saying there on that example? And can you get somebody to change that?
Councillor Cuttell, we'll go with you.
That's an interesting idea. This isn't in my district, though I have heard from other people their frustration about the no right on red. That was implemented because, just as it's busy for cars, it's also busy for pedestrians in that area. And we've, had a number of pedestrian car collisions. So that's why it was installed. The idea of having a green right on red when the advanced green on Oxford is happening is an interesting idea. This is something that would have to be passed by the traffic authority. A lot of our traffic signaling is regulated by a traffic act. So I don't know if that's possible or not, but that it's certainly an idea that I'd be willing to ask about for sure.
Yeah, please. Can you tell them, when the light's flashing for the people on Oxford, the symbol should be green to let the people turn right, because pedestrian can't walk at that point. Here's my second example. If you could also write this one down. It's Canada Day. I'm going downtown. It's on the corner of Sackville and Hollis. They put a no turn on the red light. It's a busy day. Pedestrians are there. I come down. I'm probably fourth in line to turn right on this red light. About 3 or 4 cars who are going straight on Hollis go through, and then that's it. There's nobody else going on Hollis. The guy can't turn right on the red light. People are starting to back up behind me. The light turns green. The pedestrians all start walking across. By the time they're finished, one guy got to turn right, turns red again. The 3-4 cars on Hollis go straight, and then nobody can turn right when we can be going. And I'm looking behind me. and I'm seeing the congestion back up. Like, take that, there's certain areas in the city where you have maybe no turn on a red light. I know they're on Kennard and Windsor. It makes sense because it's a weird intersection. But there's no need for that one down there. Do you not agree? Like, can you get somebody to change that? Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Not in my district, so it's not something I'm all that familiar with. But, to your point, when there is a concern raised, it is something that I'm happy to bring forward to traffic. Again, I can't, it's asking if I can go get that changed. I can't, but what I can do is bring it forward to traffic, ask for some assessment. Is it working as intended? Is there a way to improve it? That's certainly something I'm willing to do. Again, a lot of the no right on reds were implemented because of we were trying to reduce pedestrian vehicle collisions. In cities like Montreal, for example, you're not allowed to do a right on red anywhere in the city. So, it's not an uncommon practice, but. We do need at the same time, we do need to get the cars around. So whether it's, I don't know exactly what the solution would be, but if there's a problem there, then we should look into it, and I'll add that to the list. So I've noted both your points, and happy to ask about those.
Please do. I mean, I lived in Montreal for 4 years. They did a big study in Quebec. And because Quebec, you could not turn right on a red light anywhere. They removed it in the whole province except in Montreal. Quebec City, which is even still bigger than Halifax, they don't have that rule anymore. They got rid of it because it makes too much congestion. I know in the last few years, you guys have been putting way too many no turn right on a red light, and it's coinciding with all the traffic in the city. So please, yes, Patty, if you could put those two things down and as examples and say, let's have some common sense here. Like, especially that one on Jubilee. I couldn't believe it. Like, that's when it should be turning green to let people turn right, and it's still red. And I'm like shaking my head. You know what I mean?
Thanks for the call, Ed. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. See if we can get another call in here very quickly before we run out of time. Shelley, hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Your question for the councillors, please.
Well, I've asked this question before. I'm wondering, why is it Halifax shows such little concern for garbage in the city? My example is you take Joe Howe Drive, all the way from Joe Howe Drive literally to Kearney Lake. The Bedford Highway has garbage from one street to the other. It's unbelievable how much garbage. Now, this is not garbage that came there yesterday. That's been there for like months, probably a year. I never see a city truck picking up garbage. It's crazy. Why don't the city pay more attention to the garbage in the city?
Councillor Cuttell.
Oh, Shelley, you're touching on a pet peeve of mine, and first of all, I'm going to say it's not the city putting the garbage there. It's our residents, and we have a littering problem in this city. I see we have illegal dumping, we have littering. I don't see this in other cities, and it's not just because the city goes around picking up garbage. It's because people care for the places that they live. Over the past 4 years, 5 years that I've been on council, we have tried to put in some measures to address this. One is requiring all drive-throughs to have garbage cans. You should note now that when you go through a drive-through, that there is a place to dispose of your garbage from your previous visit to the drive-through, because a lot of the garbage is coming from drive-through operations, and for some reason people feel okay about throwing their garbage out a window. I remember one day I was so upset about this. It was along the Prospect Road. The truck in front of me threw out a Tim Hortons bag and a coffee cup, just threw it right out their window, and I couldn't believe it, and I chased the car down, and was going to go and give them a piece of my mind, and I pulled up and it was 2 senior citizens. And I was like, can I really get mad at senior citizens? And I did at the end, because you know what? It's not okay to throw garbage out your window. Not okay. It's not okay to have an unsecured load on the back of your truck or on your trailer. We've started education campaigns about this. We've had spot checks for trailers in particular. That's a big issue where people don't tarp their load. The majority of people who have illegal loads are what we call weekend warriors, people who are doing renovations and taking stuff to their dump with stuff flying off their trailers. So, it's a multi-prong approach, actually. One is education and one is cleanups.
Shelley, go ahead.
Okay, all those things that you mentioned has nothing to do with my comment. I know that people are doing the garbage, and it's terrible how they throw things out. I agree with that, but that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. My issue right now are the buildings along the Bedford Highway, and I'm told, I stopped one time and I spoke to one of the neighbors, a neighbor to the next building. And she told me, I said, why don't the city pick up the garbage or clean up? And why don't the property owners do it? She said, it's because of retaliation. They are scared of saying something because of retaliation. Now,
what kind of retaliation, Shelley? I'm confused.
Well, I don't know. The thing is, like, most of these buildings are owned by foreigners. And I guess their method of garbage.
Shelley, I think we need to address the broader issue of littering rather than narrowing it down, right?
Well, they're all owned. Most of these developments are owned by foreign ownership, and the same thing with all.
Okay, I'm done.
All right, Shelley, we're out of time. Appreciate the call, Councillor Austin. I appreciate your time coming in today. Councillor Cuttell, I appreciate you coming in today, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. We're going to stop. We're going to take another break. We're going to open up the telephone lines. We're going to have the open hour, the Monday Meltdown, coming up next. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. We're back in minutes.
Facts.
All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. It is now time for the Monday Meltdown. The telephone number is 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000, or 1-877-801-8255. Something you heard during Councillors on the Hot Seat, another vigorous session of that, I might say, or something else that came up on the weekend that you'd like to discuss, or how about this one? We had a brief chat during the beginning of that hour with the councillors about the Sunshine List. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with what the Sunshine List is, this is published every year. It's published by HRM, and it lists municipal employees who make over $100,000 a year. Now, Councillor Austin wants to change that number, base it on inflation, so that we get the true, or his words, a true look at who's making the big dollars in HRM, the managers and the senior bureaucrats, as opposed to the frontline workers like police officers and firefighters. Now, that number, that $100,000, and I think I said it on the air, the $100,000 isn't what it used to be, right? $100,000 was a pretty significant salary. And while it still is, it's not as significant as it was when this list was first developed. But how about a different take on the whole thing? Now, we know we get sunshine lists from all levels of government, all forms of government, to use the right vernacular. How about a different take on this? Maybe everybody who works for a government, be it municipal, be it the federal government, or be it the provincial government, should have that salary published. Remember, they're getting paid by taxpayers' money. It's your dollars, it's my dollars, it's Vanessa's dollars. For the sake of transparency, should we not know what every municipal, provincial, or federal employee makes? Or do you even care? Does it really matter? The reason why I say that, there are jurisdictions around the world that everybody, not just public employees, everybody's salary is available. One of them, I use an example, is Finland. Finland, if you call up a government agency and the name of it escapes me and my pronunciation of it isn't very good, you can look up your neighbor's salary. You can look up your doctor's salary. You can look up your boss's salary. It's as simple as a phone call. Should we release every public employee's salary as opposed to those that make over whatever the arbitrary number is that we're going to come up with, 100,000, 150,000, 200,000, whatever it is? 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000, or whatever it is you want to talk about. It's the beauty of the open hour. You can join the program and you can chat about whatever it is on your mind. We'll start with Nicole this morning. Nicole, how are you?
I'm well, Dan. How are you?
You're back.
I am back, yes. I wanted to do a follow-up to my call last Wednesday about the consumer advocate that gets appointed by the Energy Board.
Yes. Now, if I remember correctly, Nicole, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm trying to understand this like many of our listeners are, the consumer advocate is the entity that has been selected by the UARB but is independent, that is supposed to stick up for ratepayers when we have these kind of rate hike hearings.
Yes, the consumer advocate is appointed by the Energy Board under Section 91 of the Public Utility Act.
Right.
And their job is to independently act on behalf of ratepayers.
So
now, I received
sorry, but I want to get this very clear in my brain. So I think the last time you called, you said that it isn't a person, it is an entity. It's a law firm, is it not?
It is. It's Pink Larkin.
So a law firm is speaking for me as a ratepayer.
Yes, and
okay.
I got a bunch of clarification from the UARB at 8 a.m. on Friday morning.
Oh.
And it should be in your inbox because you're going to be very interested to get into the nuts and bolts of this. So I've been looking into Nova Scotia Power, cybersecurity, contracts. Anyone who's heard me, I'm no stranger to this right now.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm really trying to get clarification on is the role of the consumer advocate. And this is what came back. So the clerk came back to give me all of the information on the consumer advocate and also provided me with their 2024 annual report. And the clarification that came back is that the advocate is appointed under Section 91 of the board, that they are to act independently, but only within the scope that the board defines. So their duties per the board include representing residential customers as a full intervener. This is important.
Yes.
Submitting evidence, cross-examination, and settlement agreements, also very important. Retaining experts and consultants, and exercising, quote, professional judgment about what issues to pursue. However, and this is what matters the most because nothing happens in the absence of this, contracts, residential ratepayer contracts, and that's with anything, whether it's the Nova Scotia Power or Halifax Water, contracts sit outside the scope of what the board has approved that they can pursue. So my issue has been that we have a massive conflict of interest here because the consumer advocate is appointed and funded. So this is also important.
Right.
The board pays the billable hours for the law firm. They are appointed and funded by the very board that adjudicates the proceedings.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense.
Oh, it gets better. Residential customers, unless separately listed as interveners, which to date is not happening, and my conversation with the board has to do with intervener status because only this entity has been approved to represent ratepayers at hearings, are effectively represented only through the board's chosen advocate. Now, Section 91(4)(a) of the Public Utility Act says the fees and expenses referred to in subsection 3, which is that the board pays them, shall be paid to the board by the applicant or applicants in such proportion as determined by the board. Now, in these hearings and proceedings, the applicant would be Nova Scotia Power. The applicant would be Halifax Water. So in this annual report that I received from the board, it outlines all of the billable hours for Pink Larkin. And the companies that they have represented on behalf of the board are Eastward Energy, Efficiency One, Halifax Regional Water Commission, miscellaneous fees, Nova Scotia Power Incorporated, and Nova Scotia Power Maritime Link, to the tune in 2024 of $647,618, $647,618.96. $459,387.63 were just for Nova Scotia Power. So when you really peel all this back, this is what we're looking at. You, as a Nova Scotia ratepayer, are paying for the lawyer who is supposed to protect you. The lawyer is appointed by the very board that regulates Nova Scotia Power. Their fees, to the tune of almost $460,000 just for Nova Scotia Power, are then charged to Nova Scotia Power as the applicant. Nova Scotia Power then recovers those fees from you through your power bill, because I've yet to see Pink Larkin actually successfully represent the ratepayers. And so you're now forced to fund your own representation, chosen by the regulator and paid for by the corporation that you're challenging. Like, this is the very definition of regulatory capture, because essentially the watchdog is sitting inside the same house as the entity that it's meant to oversee. So effectively what they're saying is, we're going to regulate the costs, but not the legitimacy of the contracts that all of those costs are built on, because that's out of scope. And that is the massive structural blind spot that is leaving all of the customers vulnerable. And the biggest issue that we have is the only way to actually change this is either through ministerial review or judicial review. Ministerial review means that the governor and council, aka Mike Savage and Tim Houston, inside the executive council, would have to make they would have to say, yeah, Regulation 2.2 is terrible. Like, they need to form a contract. And they would have to repeal that, or it would have to go to judicial review. Now, in order for it to go to judicial review, we would then have to find a law firm in the province of Nova Scotia that is not benefiting from Nova Scotia Power in one way, shape, or form, because they're either A, on retainer with Nova Scotia Power directly, or they're on retainer by an interest group that is constantly opposing Nova Scotia Power or Halifax Water as an intervener. So we are completely captured in Nova Scotia by these utilities, by the UARB, by the Executive Council, and by the law firms that are absolutely financially benefiting from this structure not changing.
Nicole, you listed off a bunch of things that the intervener is supposed to do, and we're up against the break, and we're almost out of time, but I'm very curious as to your thoughts on this. A lot of things that they're supposed to do, but the one thing I didn't hear in that list was consult with the ratepayer. So how do they know what we want?
Well, and from what I can see, and based on their silence, because they've not responded to me, they're under no obligation to speak to us directly. What they're to do is use, they're to use their professional judgment and retain experts and consultants. So, and I know you're up against a break. My question now is, who wants to be the first to interview Pink Larkin on their role as the consumer advocate?
We'll do our best.
That would be great. Thank you, Dan.
Have a fantastic day, Nicole. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Talk to you later.
902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. We're going to continue to look at this role of the consumer advocate in the UERB and the power rates as we're facing that 4.1 next year and 4.1 on top of that the year after. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. The open hour continues after the break. Welcome back to the Monday edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. This is Monday Meltdown. It's your opportunity to talk about whatever it is on your mind. The telephone lines are open, 902-405-6000. It's 1-877-801-8255. Let's go to the phones and welcome Joe to the show. Joe, how are you?
I'm back. Thanks, Dan. You know what? I want to start off by saying that you cut Gloria a very wide swath, and I think you're very, very empathetic, very wise to do that, because she's a kick-ass lady.
I get it. And it's a line, right? And I tried to do my very best to stay out of the way during that segment, right?
And you're very respectful, and I really appreciate it. Not so much Sam, but that's greatly appreciated, because I think an awful lot of that lady. I think a whole lot of people do.
Well, Joe, on that point, I will give all of the councillors credit. It can be a pretty uncomfortable situation being in here and doing that, and for them, because they could just say no, right? They just could stop doing it. So I appreciate them coming in and facing the music, so to speak.
Well, I don't agree with you, but I respect the fact that you have more than one consideration. You have to look in all directions because you're hosting a broadcast. But who was that masked girl, Nicole? Who the hell is she?
She's been calling the show for some time. She's very plugged into the goings on in the provincial rules and regulations, and I always learn stuff when she calls here.
I'm aware, and that's why I brought it up. She sounds like she might be a Dow law student, but she is really a dynamite girl. You need to get her on more often.
Absolutely.
Really.
We'll do that, Joe.
Yeah,
Appreciate
it.
Yep.
Thanks for your time, Dan. Have a good day.
You too, sir. 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. It's a dance, I will say, when it comes to trying to stay out of the way during the Councillors on the Hot Seat, because I know you all have questions, and I know you all some are frustrated, and I get that. But we also have to try and keep things moving forward and try to keep things somewhat respectful, I will say. 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Jacqueline to the show. Jacqueline, how are you?
Good. How are you, Dan?
I am well. What's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind is the number of councillors in Halifax.
Okay.
I've been doing a little bit of research. The population of Halifax is a little over 500,000, and the land area of HRM is about 5,500 square kilometers.
It's huge.
Yes, it is. It's huge. Actually, the only municipality in Canada that is larger than HRM is Fort McMurray, which is actually called the Regional Municipality of Wood Buffalo.
Wood Buffalo. Yep, you're correct.
And that area is 68,454 kilometers. So it's significantly larger than HRM. Population is smaller than HRM, but the area is bigger. Now, Halifax has a mayor and 16 councillors.
Yep.
This regional municipality of Wood Buffalo has a mayor and 10 councillors.
Okay.
So and here's like Toronto. Everybody knows that Toronto is larger than Halifax. Toronto has a mayor and 25 councillors. Mm-hmm. Vancouver has 10 councillors. Calgary has 14. Edmonton, 13. Winnipeg, 15. Regina, 10. Fredericton has 9. Moncton has 8. I don't know how the province can justify 16 councillors in Halifax when our population nor our area seems to warrant it.
I don't follow.
Well, the population of Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, everybody knows that it's a larger population than Halifax. And Toronto's bigger than Halifax, Vancouver's bigger, Wood Buffalo. So if everybody seems to have, except for Toronto. Toronto is the only city in Canada that has more city councillors than Halifax. Why would Halifax require 16 councillors?
Well, I think your first point is what council will tell you is the reason why, is that we are the second largest municipality in the country and have a bigger population than Wood Buffalo. So if you take
but we're not.
Sorry?
Area-wise, we're only 5,500 kilometers.
55
square kilometers. We're not really that big compared to Vancouver, Edmonton, Toronto.
Hang on. HRM's much bigger than Vancouver. Area-wise.
Are you sure?
I am 100% sure. You said that HRM in your opening statement. You said HRM is the second biggest municipality in the country.
Okay.
Population-wise, Vancouver certainly dominates us. There's no doubt about that. But area-wise, I don't think that we're even close to Vancouver. I think we're much larger.
Okay, so we are a large area.
Right.
But we have a small population.
I get it. So should a councillor have to travel from Sheet Harbour to Cole Harbour to represent their district?
Well, if that's their job, that's their job.
That's an awful big area to try and administer, isn't it?
Well, they get transportation expenses. Everybody knows that.
But there's only 24 hours in a day. It's a big, big place.
Well, I don't believe that it's warranted to have 16 councillors in a tiny little, well, relatively tiny, population-wise city like Halifax.
And I will agree with you to an extent. I think that we need to take a look at the way that we form a council. I think that we need to start electing councillors at large so we don't run into a problem like we saw here during the open hour with those turn on red lights issues where councillors have very little say in what happens outside of their district. That part I will agree with you on. But I think that the actual number, if we start to eliminate councillors, then people in particularly the rural areas are going to get less representation than they have now.
Well, look at the size of the wards of the counseling district in, like, say, the peninsula. Mm-hmm. Those districts are so tiny.
But they're full of people.
Well, that's what they have to be, full of people.
I think it's 20. And I will stand to be corrected, but I think the number is 27,000 people is the number they look for in a district. So each of those districts is going to have 27,000 or more in it.
Well, I don't think that number should be. I don't think that's the correct number. It should be. I don't think it should be set at a number of people. It should be set on area.
But then you lose representation, don't you, Jacqueline?
Why wouldn't somebody that's living in, say, the West End, like Sean Cleary's area,
sure,
relatively small area but high population,
right?
And then there's the I don't know, Cole Harbour and Porter's Lake area. It's huge area and very small population.
Right. So would a vote in Sean Cleary's district weigh more than a vote in Porter's Lake? You see where I'm getting at?
Yes, I do. I don't think it should have more weight, but
it would, right? Because that would be a denser population base.
Yes. But the area, I mean, why don't we? I don't think that the areas, the wards in HRM are wisely sized. And I don't think we need 16 councillors.
Okay.
Okay.
Have a great day. Thanks for the call, Jacqueline. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. HRM is a unique place for many different reasons, but one of them is it is so big. And I think to make it fair and have fair representation for everybody, then the number of councillors obviously has to be up. Is 16 the number? I don't know. Should we have a couple of councillors at large that would run on the same over the whole city like the mayor does? Might be wise. But you have to be very careful that you, when you draw those boundary lines, that you don't focus on the urban areas and leave the rural municipalities with less representation. That's my point. We're going to stop. We're going to take another break. The open hour continues on the other side. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It is the Monday Meltdown, your opportunity. I think we used to call it Manic Mondays, but Meltdown sounds so much better, doesn't it? Anyway, your chance to talk about whatever it is on your mind. The numbers are 902-405-6000. That's 1-877-81801. Okay, let me try that again. It must be Monday. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Shanaz, how are you?
I am good. How are you, Dan?
I am well. What's on your mind? First time caller. Thanks for calling in.
Yes, we listen to your show all the time. I'm calling about Nova Scotia Power.
Sure.
They came here a couple of weeks ago and read my meter for 123 days. I don't know why.
Whoa.
And there's 2 readings. I don't understand what it means. So I've been trying to call them.
Mm-hmm.
I've called maybe, I'm going to say 40 times in the last 2 weeks, and I get the same message. We are experiencing system problems. Try again later. Surely in 2 weeks it would have fixed the problem.
Right? Wow.
I just called this morning twice. And I tried to call my MP. I tried to call Mr. Hensby. I live on the Eastern Shore, and Ken Smith, and I'm waiting for them to call me back, see if they have any advice for me. Like, our bills are paid up to date. It's not like they're billing us for, 4 months or anything. But they're charging me for 123 days instead of the 2 months.
Do you think maybe it had, and I don't know the answer, but do you think maybe it had something to do with the cyber attack that they stopped? Did you have a smart meter?
Yes.
That might be why, but I'm not 100% sure.
I thought that was taken care of, though, by now.
I don't know if they're estimating or what they're doing, but I can tell you that Councillor Hensby listens to this show quite a lot, so hopefully he heard you and will give you a call back.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody else had the same problem.
Sometimes these big companies are notoriously difficult to get somebody on the phone with, aren't they?
I know. So last Thursday, I drove an hour and 20 minutes. I decided I would go downtown Halifax to Upper Water Street and try and see somebody in person. And, I could not have access to the building. The elevator, to be able to get in the elevator, you have to have a security card to scan before it would open.
I've never been there, to be honest. I didn't know that.
So, they don't want anybody to enter the building or something. I don't know. So.
Well, Shanaz, I wish you the very best and keep up the good fight.
All right.
Thank you.
If I find out anything, I'll
please let me know. Absolutely.
Okay.
902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Let's welcome Chris to the show. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. I didn't expect to hear your voice today, Dan.
Well, every once in a while I'll surprise you.
Well, I thought you were only there for the 2 weeks. Todd's not back until later on this week, I guess.
Todd's off, for sure. So what's on your mind?
Yeah. Well, I like the term meltdown as well. Everybody needs a good meltdown every once in a while. Right. It makes you feel good.
Every once in a while. I was half expecting you to melt down on Councillors on the Hot Seat this week.
Well, no, to be honest with you, I was working and I kind of forgot about the show, and I apologize for that, for me to forget about your show.
Especially that
segment. I was late turning it on, and had it been my nemesis, Mr. Cleary, I would have definitely called in.
Okay.
Or had it been my councillor, Laura, I would have called in. But I did feel like calling in, actually. I think Sam is very disrespectful to Gloria. She deserves the respect that she's earned, something that he and many of the other councillors will never be able to do. But the main reason I called is that you're next to the last caller about the representation,
number of councillors,
HRM.
Yep,
exactly. And I agree with her 100%. And I think the way she explained it, I understand exactly what she meant. But in clarification, I think that her point is we're represented 27,000 people approximately for each councillor.
Yes.
And Toronto is, I believe, it's pretty close to 130,000 per councillor. And I think her point is, at least my point would be, if Toronto can manage their city with each councillor being responsible to 130-odd thousand people, why the heck do we need our councillors to only be responsible for 27,000 people?
And that's a fair point.
And to take it one step further, another insult, we have I think it's 55 MLAs. Well, with our population, that's less than 20,000 people per MLA. Do we really need that? Aren't we kind of over-governed by the number of people? We've got 3 levels of government: municipal, provincial, and federal. Add up all the MPs, MLAs, and councillors. Aren't we a bit over-governed, Dan?
Well, there's certainly an awful lot of people on the public payroll. I will give you that.
Well, there is, and I don't think we need them. And getting back to the point of possibly the province looking at getting rid of some of the councillors or council altogether and giving some of the backbench MLAs some positions. I'm all in favor of looking at that. Not necessarily doing it. You'd have to study it a little bit to see if it's feasible to do, first of all. But you mentioned a fact about the geographical area.
Yes.
Well, suppose you had a geographical area that was very, very rural, and it was about the size of Peninsula Halifax, but there was only 500 people that lived there. Mm-hmm. Do they deserve their own personal representative?
But they don't get one. That's the point.
No. I mean, like out in the counties and then in the municipality or outside of the municipality. Right. If you had a municipality that was as large as Halifax, but it only had 1,000 people in it, but it was a separate municipality.
Oh, I understand your point. Okay, yeah.
You wouldn't need its own separate representative. It would be amalgamated into or controlled by another municipality to get the numbers up there. I would suspect, but councillors generally, I don't think, Dan, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I don't think councillors spend a whole lot of time driving around their constituency.
Oh, I'll disagree with that, and okay. I will disagree with that. In fact, I was having a conversation with Councillor Cuttell, who was in here, who was at a breakfast, or was a scheduling error, but was supposed to be at a breakfast before she came here to do this show, and then they have a schedule of things to do after the show. So I will disagree. I think that the councillors are busy. Are they too busy? That's a point we can argue.
Well, I guess my point is that do they drive, if they have an issue to deal with and it's 30, 40, 50 kilometers away from where they live or from downtown Halifax, are not most of the issues they deal with dealt with through email?
I would think, but
telephone,
I think
that
Councillor,
sort of thing.
I think Councillor Hensby, who is a councillor from a rural area, will tell you that he puts a lot of miles on the car every year.
Oh, I bet he does. I mean, David, I don't know David personally, but by reputation and stuff, and I do know that David tours his district quite a bit. I will give him that. In the District 7, the South End where I live, I haven't seen, other than to go to a couple of coffee meetings, I haven't seen or heard tell of our councillor at all since the election. So I'm thinking that a lot of the work they do, and it stands to reason that would be the most effective and efficient way to do it, is pick up the phone, deal with it that way, deal with an email, whatever you have to do, to deal with it electronically rather than to actually physically, like in the old days where you'd physically drive to a certain location to address a certain person's complaint. That's kind of the point I was mentioning. But anyway, bottom line is I think we've got too much representation for our population. And if we look at other bigger cities that have much, much more, and they seem to be doing just fine, I don't see why we couldn't.
Chris, appreciate the call, sir.
Dan, thanks very much.
902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000. The Monday Meltdown continues after the break.
X.
All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It is the open hour, 902-405-6000. It's 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. A couple of lines open. If you want to do, as we like to call them around here, a quick hitter, get it in, get it off your chest, and on to your day. Again, 902-405-6000 is the number. We welcome Buddy to the show. Buddy, how are you?
Not too bad, Dan. You're filling up, good job filling up Todd's shoes.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. What can I do for you?
Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about CAA. I've been driving taxi in this HRM for close to 50 years, okay? Now,
holy smokes, that's a long time,
CAA,
sir. Wow.
What's that?
That's a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time, right? And I'm still doing it.
Still at it.
Anyway, still at it at 75 years old.
Oh,
yeah.
Good for you, sir. Wow.
Anyway, brother, I'd like to say about CAA. For some reason or other, they will not hook on to a taxi and tow them if they break down on the road.
Really?
Okay? Really, yeah. Really, really. And I confronted them and asked them why, and they said they'd be busy all the time picking up taxis, which I don't think is true, but that's the only excuse they gave me.
Huh.
Now, they've also into insurance. They've just got into insurance business of some sort. I don't know what exactly it is. But I don't think it's very fair to guys, taxi drivers that go around trying to help to pick impaired people off the road or whatever, and for them not to represent. I can buy a plan for my own car, my personal car.
Right.
But even so, they will not pick up my taxi should I break down.
See, I maybe could understand that if you were all driving fleet vehicles, but you're not, right? I mean, those are personal cars that you're driving with a roof light on them.
That's right, brother. That's right.
Huh.
95% of them are personal.
That's weird. I never heard that before.
Well, you're hearing it now.
There you go.
And I've had this on my mind for a long time to call you and see what hear from you or your listening audience.
Well, it's I don't have the answer for you, buddy, but maybe somebody out there does.
Okay, brother.
Have a good one.
Thank you for listening.
Stay safe on the road. 50 years in a taxi cab. My goodness. Thanks, buddy. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. Imagine the stories from a driver that's been doing it for 50 years. Holy smokes. Brian, welcome to the program.
Hi. How you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
So I was just calling in regards to the lady who called in about her power bill.
Yes.
I got my bill, same thing. It's my understanding is that due to the breach, they're not able to use the smart meters.
That's what I kind of thought.
Yeah, and they're having to go around manually and read the meters. So the last bills that were sent out were estimated bills.
Yeah.
So bills that were sent out at the end of June, early July, whatever, they were estimated. And then when they read the meters, they put the actual last time it was actually read and to the current time. So it's 123, 124 days, whatever. And on your bill, it has two lines. What your last bill was in July or whatever, which should have been paid. Your current bill, which is, like mine, for example, July was $500 and my current one was $400.
Holy smokes,
so,
$500 electrical bill. Jeez.
That's for the 4 months.
Okay, no, that makes more sense. All right.
Yeah. So for the 2 months, it was the July bill was like around $500, and then the other 2 months. But on your bill, it's saying you're billed for 123 days, but that's only showing the actual time that it was last read and the current time that it was read.
So I don't have I was just looking in my bag. I don't have my bill with me. So is this latest one? Is it an estimate or is this an actual reading on the meter?
The latest one is an actual reading on the meter. People were going around reading them, and it says, and I looked at my previous bill from back in July, and it says that it's an estimate.
Okay, well that makes sense.
Yeah,
Brian, appreciate it, sir.
Clarify for her so that she can get some. So she's not being billed for 123 days.
It's just because of the breach. As I kind of thought it was.
It's because of the breach, and they're still not able to use the smart meter, so they're having to physically go around manually and read them. So.
Brian, appreciate it, sir.
No problem.
Have a good one. 902-405-6000, 902-405-6000. It always amazes me that the wealth of knowledge that's out there when it comes to these things. I usually have the last bill I have a big folder that I carry around me, and I don't have it. So I was trying to look it up during the break, but I'm glad he called and told us what it was. Email from Ken says, sounds to me, sounds like to me, Dan, not my English, you are arguing for the type of representation that the USA has for its states, have federal representation based on population, congressman, a fixed amount of 2 senators per state per population. For example, California has 52 congressmen, Rhode Island has 2. However, both California and Rhode Island have 2 senators. Not sure how you would implement it at the municipal level, hence I would support it based on population level, 1 councillor per population of X. I think you need to better articulate your point of view, as I agree HM has too many councillors. My point is, and in other jurisdictions, in fact, my own hometown has a group of councillors. Now, I'm not going to give you a number because they've changed it since I left, but they have a councillor for X amount of constituents, and then they would elect, I think it was 2, maybe it was 4 councillors at large. So what you would do when you voted was you would vote for a mayor, you would vote for a councillor for your riding or your district, and then you would vote for a councillor at large. I think there was maybe 2 that you voted for. Anyway, I'm going back a number of years here, but that's what it was for. And the councillor at large would be the catch-all, right? So if you're not getting the joy that you're looking for from your counselor, like we heard during Councillors on the Hot Seat, then you could call your counselor at large and they could help you with your problem. Or it could be another person that you could reach out to solve a problem or get an issue worked on. Now, how that all works with the current setup of HRM is something that we'd have to dig into, but I just think that it would give us further representation. Maybe we don't need as many districts then, but then we have a couple of catch-all councillors at large, and that would balance things out a bit. That's all I was getting at, Ken. 902-405-6000. Jeremy, how are you?
Good day, my man. How are you doing yourself?
What's on your mind?
I was wondering, I think it's about time Nova Scotia batters owned by Nova Scotia, not another country. And representation, I think we're the most represented per capita for every level of government that there is. And supposedly the more representation, the better represented. But yet it seems like everything in this province is the worst off in mayhem that there is compared to any other provinces.
Right. So less representation, Jeremy? You're in favor of firing a bunch of councillors and MLAs?
Well, no, not necessarily. Just want to make that point.
Okay.
Chester St. Mary's, I think, is the largest one that there is area.
It's a big area, that's for sure.
But one little thing I heard before this Friday, an officer in PEI had their sidearm discharge on them.
In the holster, from what I understand.
Yeah, and they're like, taking the gun for examination and everything, you know. There's three levels, you know, the things that can happen there. It's got to be cocked, the safety's got to be off, and the trigger got to be touched.
Right.
But this can only ever happen if it's cocked and loaded, one in the barrel, right?
I think, Jeremy,
one in the barrel.
I think, and I stand to be corrected on this, because the policy may have changed, but I do believe that police officers carry one in the barrel. I think that's standard.
Yeah, that's called dead man's load.
Well, no, I get it.
Happen,
but it's also a matter of timing. If they need to use it quickly, they don't want to go through the whole cycle process, right?
Yeah, well, look what can happen, right? It only takes a matter.
Hey, well, look what happened. You're absolutely correct. I mean, going off in the holster certainly raises some questions for me.
Yeah, well, I think when we do it outside in the wooden stuff, it's looked frowned upon as well. Wow, don't do it, right? You know,
absolutely.
I don't think it's recommended by the manufacturers to do it, even though it can happen. You can do it, right? You know?
Right on.
But yeah, it's unsafe. And there's second better cause takes to do it to cock a gun when you need it. You know, I don't think it's going to matter much anymore, but it could. But then have the officers around too, right? But,
Jeremy,
at that point. Okay, thank you. Have a good
appreciate
day.
it. Out of time. That's going to be the last word today. Thank you to everyone who dialed the numbers and joined the conversation. I truly appreciate it. We're going to carry on at this again tomorrow, so make sure that you're ready to go at 11 o'clock. Call in early to avoid disappointment. We're going to stop. We're going to take a break. Blake is going to update us on what's going on in the world. And when we come back to the show, easy for me to say, fall transition stirring anxiety in growth. Dr. Brent McDonald, a psychologist at Crux Psychology, will be joining us here on the program. Hope you can stick around. This is the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Olstrand with you here on a Monday as we roll off the start of the week, and it's starting to clear up out there, and it's looking like it's going to dry up. I hope the humidity moves its way out because, my goodness, was it sticky this weekend, right? Lots of things going on out there, and I'm very glad. Just very quickly, I want to share something with you from the open hour out of making sure that we try to get as much correct information out there as we can. I said that when it comes to the Sunshine List, that all levels of government should be releasing the figures of everybody who's paid by the taxpayer. And I said the municipal government, the provincial government, and the federal government. A couple of you emailed me, and I appreciate it when you do this. The provincial government apparently has been doing that for some time. Anybody over $25,000 a year has their salary published. So why can't the municipal government and the federal government follow suit? Anyway, again, I appreciate you reaching out and clarifying things for me. Smart people out there. I keep telling you all that. Well, we talked about it an awful lot last week. I think the routines are starting to settle in, with the exception of students that go to Dalhousie University. We know that there's a bargaining session underway today, a conciliator between the two sides and the Dalhousie University labor situation. I know that there are students out there who are awaiting the outcome of that. Must be confusing as heck, right? It's, I have this class taught by a part-time professor, so I can do that one, but this one's not. There's the picket lines to cross and so on and so forth, and concerns about for students that are perhaps in their third or fourth year about graduation, and the life goes on and on and on. But particularly for a first-year student, this time of the year can be a bunch stressful. Dr. Brent McDonald is a psychologist at Crux Psychology, specializes in mental toughness and overcoming anxiety. And he joins me on the phone to shed a little bit of light on this. Dr. McDonald, appreciate your time, sir.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
It's, and it's been a day or two since I was a student, so I'm trying to remember back what it was like for me when that change happened, and we started a whole new kind of chapter of your life, right? You move away from home in some cases. You certainly move away from, the and I'm putting quotations around this, the safety of your group of people that you hung out with in high school, and now you're into a different setting, and plus all of the other pressures of the world can be tough on particularly a first-year student.
Well, for sure. And part of that is the age that most people start university. Like most people start university or start any kind of post-secondary around 17 to 20 or so, give or take. And that's a time of a lot of change anyway, regardless of, the fact that you're moving away from home, moving away from childhood friendships, perhaps, and those kinds of supports that you've had all the way through. So I know certainly in my work as a psychologist and as an instructor too, because I do teach at the university level, when students start showing up in September, there's a lot of transitions going on that are very natural transitions, but it all seems to be accumulating into one sort of very short period of time. And I think that's really, just like most things that causes anxiety, it can be a good thing to an extent, but too much can be a little bit overwhelming.
Mental toughness, is that something you can train yourself to do? Is it like a muscle? Is it like going to the gym?
Very much so, and actually going to the gym is a good example. But a lot of the mental toughness research comes out of sports psychology. I've used it in education over the years for people with ADHD, autism, learning disabilities, and that sort of thing at the university level as well, to help people, identify, risk as something to seek out, not to avoid, but to actually seek out risk, calculated risk, of course, and then developing the resiliency. So when you actually approach a risk and you meet with success, that's going to encourage you to do more. And if you take on risk, it doesn't work out so well, that could lead to avoidance. But if we have a resilient mindset, that's actually going to lead us to, okay, so what's caused a problem in this situation when I took this risk, and how can I overcome that the next time? So it is something that absolutely, and the research is very strong on this, absolutely can be taught.
Dr. McDonald, are we our worst enemy? And when I mean that is that, parents always have the greatest intentions. They want the very best for their kids, and put some pressure on them to succeed. We put pressure on ourselves to succeed, but we can do a whole world of good for ourselves by failing a time or two.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, our best learning opportunities, if you want to look at it that way, is through failure, if you will, for lack of a better phrase. I don't really look at failure as failure. I look at failure as an opportunity to adapt behavior and make some changes. One of the things that I always encourage parents to think about, though, particularly as their young adult children are growing up and moving away, is that they are going to have to relinquish some of that control that they've had all the way through. So up until grade 12, for example, a parent can call a school and talk to a teacher and that sort of thing. And at the university level, like I can't, as an instructor, I can't even inform a parent if that student is in my class, much less any conversation about how they're doing in that class. And that's a really tough challenge for parents and for students too, because often they've not been really taught how to self-advocate. So when, challenges come up, they've counted on mom and dad to come to the rescue, and mom and dad can come to the rescue in different ways, but they're not able to contact the institution itself and say, hey, how's my kid doing? And that's a big change. But again, parents have to make some changes too. And I always look at the opportunities parents have when their kids move away for them themselves as parents to look at their own sense of identity. Their kids are moving on. Maybe it's time for them to explore some different options and different avenues of identity themselves that don't involve just being quote unquote, or to kind of simplify things, to just be a parent, to be more than a parent, to be something different than a parent, on top of continuing to maintain that parent role for a young adult.
It must be difficult because you're gone from like 100%, right for 17 or 18 years, and then all of a sudden that's just not there anymore. And saying, all right, I'm going to let them go on their own 2 feet is less than easy for many parents.
It's terrifying for a lot of parents, to be honest, and understandably so, because they have had such, potentially in many cases, such absolute control. And to relinquish that control is really, really hard. So kind of loosening up the straps a little bit and letting their adult children make mistakes and deal with the consequences of those mistakes, as uncomfortable as that is, it is a normal part of development in the young adult years. That's how we learn how to become fully developed adults, is to make mistakes when we're in our young adult years.
How about changing the season? That always makes me kind of blue when we get out of summer and into the fall, and which I think is the best time of the year. But once we get past fall and into the W word, I don't even like to say it, then my mood tends to change because there's a lack of vitamin D, you get cabin fever, all that stuff.
Yes, for sure. Now, I'm with you on the whole fall thing. I think fall is the best time of year in Maritimes. But the switch that happens in our environment around us, like we're getting less sunlight, therefore, like you said, less vitamin D. Less vitamin D means less serotonin. Less serotonin, which is our happy little neurotransmitter, makes us feel positive and good, reduces our mood. We also look at light changes having an impact on our sleep, temperature changes. So we're not doing all the outdoor things that maybe we were doing over the summer. So those transitions and those kinds of changes are actually normal. We experience them to varying degrees every year. So we kind of know they're coming. And the W word, we're not going to say it, but you know what it is. I know what it is. Your listeners know what it is.
Right.
But that word is coming, and we'll adapt to it. We always do. We shouldn't be surprised by it. So to that extent, we can kind of put plans in place. But the sooner that we put those plans in place to focus on our sleep, to have some winter activities planned ahead of time, be it anything from a vacation to just going out and, going for a walk or something like that is really difficult to do in maritime winters because you're leaning, 45 degrees into the wind. But, there are other activities we can do that might be a bit more housebound, but are still fun to do and still give us some energy and those kinds of things that really, keep the energy from dropping too much and getting us into kind of that seasonal affective disorder kind of way of being of, low energy, eating lots of carbohydrates and feeling just not so great about yourself.
There are people in this radio station that swear by the so-called happy lights. Do these happy lights, do they really work?
They really do. They emit a light on the UV spectrum that our skin absorbs, not nearly as effective as sunlight. Sunlight by far is our best bet for getting the vitamin D that we need because that's metabolized through our skin. But I do recommend to my clients that using those mood lights, if you will, a lot of that is absorbed through our faces, so having it on our desk or something like that to supplement our vitamin D, taking vitamin D drops, very natural ways of developing that more robust serotonin presence in our central nervous system does make us feel a little bit better mood-wise and energy-wise. So those are really helpful things.
We're out of time, Dr. McDonald. I appreciate yours.
Hey, my pleasure. Anytime.
That is Dr. Brent McDonald from Crux Psychology. It's the the pressure, it never seems and it's not just first years, right? You get into school, it seems like you come off of a summer vacation or a summer break, and then you're back to school, and then all of a sudden the academic pressure comes on, right? The assignments and the exams and all of that stuff, plus, the seasons are changing, winter, I'll say it sucks, and it can all kind of become a whole lot, and that's just not the student. It's also the parent at home who has to learn to deal with their kids falling a little bit farther from the nest, so to speak. We're going to stop, take a break. When we come back, protecting hemlocks in city parks. Deputy Mayor Tony Mancini will be your guest. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. One of the things that I enjoy most, particularly about the fall season, is getting out into the woods, getting out to some of our parks, and getting out to some of the wild spaces within HRM and maybe just outside of, and enjoy the splendor that our province has. And one of the things that is always very, very heartwarming for me is getting out into the woods and taking that big breath in, that and you can smell it. I call it pine tree therapy. Well, one of the pine trees that is prevalent here in our part of the world is under attack. And we're very pleased to welcome into the program today to tell us a little bit about what the city's looking at to deal with the problem that is impacting our hemlock trees is Deputy Mayor Tony Mancini. Tony, how are you?
I'm good, Dan. Good to hear from you.
I guess let's begin there. This little woolly algid is a dangerous little bug.
Yeah, it certainly is. You talked about in your intro about your love of being out and doing that pine tree therapy. I'm the same. You may not know this, but I'm an avid backwoods camper and hiker, so I do spend a lot of time in our woods throughout Nova Scotia. And so this little bug is pretty powerful and pretty efficient. And the threat that we have right now is within the next 3 years, if we don't do something about it, it could kill more than 95% of our hemlock trees in HRM, if not the province.
What can we do? It's a big hill to climb.
It is a big hill to climb. We at HRM and working with the province looked at a number of different options. There's a biocontrol approach, which is bringing a predator in to attack the insect. There's the chemical approach and spray. And if you grew up in Nova Scotia or Atlantic Canada, in the early 70s, there was spraying going on in our forest that we now realize is not probably the best approach to do things. So what we're looking at is doing an injection in the tree. So actually going to the hemlock tree and injecting the appropriate chemical that will fend off the insect.
So you have to essentially stick a needle in every hemlock in HRM.
Yeah, so we've identified 15 different parks that have an abundance of hemlock trees that are within the HRM. There's 3 of them actually within my district, 3 parks in my district. At first, there may be hiring a contractor to do it, but really I think the approach will be creating a team of volunteers to go out and to help us do this. And I think there's not going to be any problem getting any volunteers. We've used it for the Lake Watchers program, which is doing lake sampling in a number of our lakes, and people that live in lakes or have a passion to protect our lakes. We have many people have stepped up to help us do that. So I feel if once we turn the switch on that we're going to proceed with this, we're not going to have a problem with the volunteers. But it actually means injecting into actual hemlock trees. But these hemlock trees are truly amazing trees. But if we don't deal with it now, we're going to have a real problem and a real loss.
What kind of cost are we talking about here, Tony?
So you're looking at about $150K to about $200K per year. We do have the funds for this year, but we'll be seeking funds for the following years. It doesn't necessarily have to be HRM taxpayer funds. There are funding programs that exist, and hopefully we can tap into those.
Now, this all happened in front of the Environment Committee. Is it going to Council now, and will Council make the final call on this?
Yeah, council will make the final call. We passed it at our environment committee, and so now council has to make that call, and we have to have this conversation. And the conversation, I'm really feeling hopeful that we're going to support this, because as I mentioned, we don't want to be losing 95+% of our hemlock trees. But each time that we talk about it, I appreciate you guys reaching out on your station to talk about it. A lot of residents already, knowing, seen this story in the media, reached out to me saying, look, I want to help, or how can I help? I've got hemlock trees on my property. So the big question is coming up with the private land also. So it's a good opportunity to have conversation, engage with the province, engage with our staff, and we really need to get ahead of this.
Well, we'll certainly keep it in the loop, Tony. Well, I've got you on the phone. Council meets tomorrow, and
Yes,
you have a motion before council to debate a proposal from the Halifax Mooseheads. What is the proposal, Tony?
Yeah, so the Mooseheads came to one of our committees and asking that we enhance some rooms at the RBC Centre, which is in Burnside, the 4-pad there. They're wanting to bring another level of exercise equipment and therapy rooms and all of that. So they've brought forward that ask. But since then, we've discovered that the Moosehead ownership have now stepped up and said, hey, I think we're willing to pay for this, because it may take too long for us to make our decision or our process. So I just found out about that this morning in the Nova Scotia article on it, so we may not need to bring forward that motion. But my intent was just to have the staff investigate it. I wasn't supporting it or turning it down. It was worthwhile investigating it, so we may not need that motion tomorrow after all.
So now the ownership group of the Mooseheads are willing to pay for this, Tony. Does it still have to be approved by council? It's still a municipal building, right?
Yeah, it still does. And then there are questions that need to be answered. You mean, okay, if they're going to use it or rather invest into it, do we have access it for other teams or other individuals? Does it secure a long-term lease? And, the reason I brought the motion forward was I wanted staff to take a look at it and say, okay, we're going to invest in it. What does that give us? Does that give us an increase in the leasing? Does it extend the leasing so we can guarantee it? Are there benefits to the community? So those are the questions I had and wanted the staff to come back to. So we still have to, give a final approval on that investment, because it is our facility. But it's a little bit of an easier pill to swallow if you're looking at a group that's going to pay for it. But there's still some questions to be asked.
They would, at least under the original proposal, would want to have a lease on it that was exclusive, correct?
Absolutely. But doing an exclusive lease is something that we're not typically doing. But, we need to explore this further.
And that goes before council tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Deputy Mayor Mancini, as always, a pleasure, sir.
Pleasure's mine, Dan. All the best to you.
Take care. That's Tony Mancini. He is the Deputy Mayor for HRM. The proposal before council up until today was that the city would pick up the $1.5 million bill, and then the Halifax Mooseheads would have an exclusive a lease on this. It's essentially some physical training rooms, a gym, and everything else that would be built on the side of the RBC Centre in Dartmouth in a grassy area that is between the existing building and a sidewalk. But as I understand, as things tend to change as we get closer to council meetings, the Simons, the ownership group for the Halifax Mooseheads, have said they would pick up that $1.5 million price tag on that building. But council would still obviously need to approve it, because it is still, RBC Centre is still a municipally owned building. Going to stop, take another break. Blake is going to update us on what's going on here on the program. And when we come back, looking forward to this all day. A conversation with Georgia and Antonia Lafrance. Olympic sailors will be your guest here on the program. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Holstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Hope you're having a fantastic Monday. We like to shine a great big spotlight here on this program every once in a while on some of the exceptional athletes that have come or represent or are just doing their thing on the international circuit. And on the phone today, we're very pleased to welcome probably, if not some of the best sailors that have come from our part of the world. And hey, let's face it, we're a seafaring province, so that's a pretty high bar, and I'm very pleased to welcome on the phone Georgia and Antonia Lafrance, who are sailors for Team Canada and have represented us at the Olympics and are doing huge things on the circuit. Very glad you're able to join us today.
Hi, thank you for having us. That's so flattering.
Oh, you've earned it. There's no doubt you guys have earned it. You're out there just dominating the sailing in your world. Tell me a little bit the genesis of the whole thing. What got you interested? I know you're from Chester, so that's probably part of the reason. But what got you interested in sailing competitively?
Well, I think we're two quite competitive people. I think when we were kids, mostly competitive with each other. But when we started doing it, just learning how to do it when we were little kids, it started out with just wanting to be in the best equipment or like having the nicest sails so you could go a bit faster. And when we moved here full time from Montreal, when I was 13 and Georgia was, how old were you? I never remember how old 10. Georgia is. But we started doing it more year round and it just caught on. Yeah.
And it's stuck ever since.
Pretty well, yeah.
So tell me what it's and I asked this with envy in my voice. What's it like to be an Olympic athlete? What's your day like?
We're athletes. It's our full-time job. So day in and day out, it's everything we do is for the sport. It's a huge combination of things like on-water training and preparing for on-water training and time in the gym, time on the bike, time preparing the business end of things because it's not a cheap sport and it requires a lot of logistics and infrastructure to be able to actually go sailing and practice.
Do you guys train in Chester or in Nova Scotia, or do you train around the country and around the world?
For the last couple of years, we've spent most of our time training in Europe, just because that's where the fleet is.
Right.
But we have spent our fair share of time on the waters here in the province, which is one of the most beautiful places that we've sailed for sure. So it's nice to be from here, and it's also it's amazing to be able to travel the world and see other really cool sailing venues.
Right. In addition to all that training, all that dry land you do, all the stuff on the water, all the nutrition, the gym, you also have degrees. Where did you have time to get a university degree in there?
We both completed university degrees before we started sailing full time. Right. So I graduated in 2020, and Antonia graduated in 2019. Yeah, and then right afterwards, we went full time with our, athletic careers.
It was a huge blessing because I wouldn't have had the brains nor the stamina to do both. I think it would have been quite impossible.
Right. It's a monumental task on its own. So when is the sailing season around the year, 12 months a year, or is there a season that you're on and you're off?
We're just about to hit the peak of our season, which is our World Championships that are coming up in October in Sardinia in Italy. And then after that, we'll get into the off season, take some time off. And the winter is really our off season time to put hours on the water and training and then prepare for the next
Georgia, I think he means time out of the boat maybe, but no, there's not really. It's year round for us. It's a full-time commitment. But yeah, we do take a little break after the Worlds for sure.
So the Worlds are upcoming, and I would imagine the focus is on that right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then further down the line, are we going to see you sisters in the next iteration of the Olympic Games?
We sure hope so. Please knock on wood for us.
For sure.
But yeah, this is everything for us. We want to win an Olympic medal. We want to be the first women in Canada to do that. And
my gosh, it just gets us so fired up to think about being poised to do that at the next games. Wow, it would mean everything and more to do it.
So you mentioned a bunch of infrastructure. It's just not you two. There's a whole team behind you. I imagine some pretty strong pulling family members and some corporate help and those kind of things.
Not really family members. Our parents are so helpful with little things here and there, and we get to live at home when we're here, and they feed us lots of good food and stuff like that. But we've, of course, they helped get us into sailing and supported us all throughout our youth careers. So this thing is it's our sort of business, and we've had the help of so many amazing private donors and recently a few more corporate sponsors. That's been a new thing in this campaign, is to try and do that. And we've had some great local support, like Eastlink, for example.
How big a difference does it make when you get that? I would imagine with all the other things you have to worry about, shaving tenths of seconds off a thing, and the last thing you want to worry about is finances.
Yeah, no, that's definitely very much the case. It's just like when we started our project for Paris, even we really wanted to not cut any corners at all, and it's just a factor of the sport. You must have the resources and support to push the best nations in the world, like the Netherlands and Germany, all who have really good funding. And thankfully, there's so much interest in sailing in Canada, and especially in the Maritimes. So we're looking for support. We've got some amazing supporters, and it's just a fact of the sport. It's not a cheap one.
Well, you can count us as one of your supporters. All the best in the upcoming Worlds, and we hope to see you when you get back to Nova Scotia.
Thanks so much.
That is Georgia and Antonia Lafrance, who are geared up for the World Championship. It's those dates that get circled on the calendar, right? There's races and there's training, and then there's that World Championship that you try to peak for, and then of course a little bit further down the road, 28's not that far away. And we hope to see them there. We're going to stop. We're going to take another break here on the program. When we come back, it's time for our regular visit with the CEO of the Canadian Sport Institute Atlantic. Ken Bagnell is your guest. You're listening to the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. We're back in minutes. All right, welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show. It's always a pleasure when we welcome our next guest into the studio. He's plugged into the sporting world, I think you can say, and that is, of course, Ken Bagnell, the CEO of the Canadian Sport Atlantic Institute Atlantic. Get it wrong every time. And he is here to shed some light on what's going on in the world of amateur athletes. Just listen to our interview with Georgia and Antonia, and I think that having success stories, this isn't overnight. These ladies have been working hard for a long time, but having success stories, having some success in the rowing field, and now in the sailing field, I think is always good for growing sports in particular in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sisters are a wonderful pair of role models for female athletes as well as all sailors. They've had amazing success this year. They're ranked second in the world now through the sailing rankings, and they've medaled in, I think, 4 of the 5 events that they've been in. So they're in great position moving into World Championships. And this is, as I say, they want to be the first female medalists ever for Canada at the Olympics, and they're putting themselves in good position to do that. But a fabulous pair. Yeah, so that's wonderful. And kind of to pivot a little bit, we Nova Scotia did amazing at Canada Games. In sailing too. Right. So in sailing, 3 of the 4 entries won their event, and the other one was second. So we won sailing overall. We won canoeing overall at Canada Games against every province. So the depth is coming up as well.
And having high-performance athletes, that is so vital to growing the sport, right?
Yeah, so with sailing, it's a little bit complicated because you don't see them. They're offshore, in St. Margaret's Bay or in Europe or wherever they are. So you don't see them day to day and limited coverage in what they do. At least with the paddlers on Lake Veinotte, the best in the world the world record holders are there every day, and 1,000 kids who paddle there every day in the summer see them. So they're much more visible. But those two sports continue to show why they're kind of the ones that, lead at least Nova Scotia on the national and on the world scene these days. So Canada Games was just a reinforcement of that. Eric Chouinard had 6 medals as a canoer at the Canada Games. Sullivan Nakatsu, who's a sailor, won every single one of the races, I think 10 of them. And he didn't win the first one and won every other race in his division, just kind of total dominance. But, great performance in those sports. But we're really proud of lots of other athletes, whether it's in medals in golf, athletics, swimming, Special Olympics swimming in particular, cycling, and then some team sports too. Women's basketball had an amazing run, as did women's soccer. Who both were bronze medalists, as well as men's softball. So we did better on average in team sports than we've ever done before, which means that we're competing against provinces which are bigger and beating them. So, really happy. Most medals ever for Nova Scotia, 61 medals. Creeping up on Alberta, which we never thought would be possible.
Right, because Alberta is so much bigger.
Yes, so 4 times bigger population-wise. Right. So we now have them in our sights, and we'll have to do a lot of work in order to do that. But it just shows where we're heading to. And again, some of our premier athletes, like the sisters, like Michelle Russell, like Ellie Black, all of those people are essential to that success. And we have more.
We always have more.
We have more, and this month, Sarah Mitten heads to the World Championships, and she's been, in the top 3 at virtually every competition leading up to the World. So it will be interesting to see how she does there from Brooklyn, Nova Scotia, making her mark in a sport we've never had anybody really at an international level with. She was also a gold medalist at Canada Games for Nova Scotia a number of years ago. We have a number of athletes as well on the para athletic side whose world championships are also in September in New Delhi, and that's Carly Hiltz, Chloe Dunbar, and Katie Pag, and so we'll be watching how they go along. So again, having lots of results in the athletics world as well. On the Paralympic side, we've had 3 Nova Scotians, Peter Parsons, Harry Nickerson, and Mason Smith, who are on the Canadian men's goalball team, who ended up 4th at the Americas Championship in Brazil, and in Argentina, Kayla McKinnon on the women's side, they earned a bronze medal. So some activity on the Paralympic front. For those who follow hockey, of course, there may be
1 or 2.
1 or 2. They had a summer camp, selection camp, and Marchand, Crosby, and McKinnon, who were training here this summer, featured well in that, as did Blair Turnbull, obviously, on the women's side. So well represented heading into Italy for the Paralympics. The canoe World Championship was held in Milan, Italy as well, Olympic City for winter sport. And athletes who train here, like Katie Vincent, won 2 silver medals, and we had a great performances by our Nova Scotia-born athletes like Michelle Russell, Riley Malance, and Connor Fitzpatrick, for a few who were, in the semifinals and up against the best in the world and doing a great job. So we just have this amazing depth of athletes that are coming through. Also, another athlete I should mention is Nate Darling, whose name was around, obviously, in the basketball world, and he was on the Canadian team, which was at the FIBA America's Cup.
Right.
They ended up in 4th, and Nate played a great role in that as well. So, we're seeing a again, that continued success, which is wonderful.
It's always heartwarming to me, I think, to see the level of athlete that, and we've talked about in Nova Scotia and its size, and we're not the biggest province in the country, but the number of athletes that we're able to produce that are not only participating at the highest levels but winning is quite astounding.
Yeah, and that really shifted around the Tokyo games, where we're starting to see, we've always had athletes, but now we're having athletes who are competing for the podium, which doesn't take away from anybody else, but it's good to have the mix,
right?
Right, and it does encourage people to recognize, well, yeah, maybe I can, go for the NBA because I'm, Nate and
play on the same courts.
Yeah. So I mean, it's encouraging, and the more sports we measure our success not by just how athletes do and medals, by the diversity of sports that we're involved with, because it's really important to have a wide open opportunity and role models in a number of sports in order,
other than just the traditional ones.
The traditional ones. So we encourage people to get involved, obviously, in community sport and coaching and all of that. We have some great sport coming up, of course, which has already started, which is university sport right across the province. Wonderful athletes who are dedicating a lot of time to their various sports, and that's available basically every day of the week if you want to go out and watch. Obviously, in the city we have the Mooseids, which are starting up, the Wanderers and the Tides, which are nearing critical parts of their season. So, yeah, we have a vehicle to see more and more, and I think that's really encouraging, because often these athletes are training for, 365 days a year, and every 4 years there's a little bit of attention on them. So, I appreciate this opportunity very much, but also there's lots of other athletes out there. I know parents are supporting them by driving, coaching, and all of that.
Can't shake a stick without running into something going on these days, right? There's soccer here. There's, hockey is starting there. There's baseball here.
Yeah.
We've got a robust baseball league happening in this area that doesn't maybe get the attention that it should, but there's a lot of athletics happening in our area.
Yeah, and I think, some of the changes, social media, so forth, where it's really hard to get your message out. I think it's just important to know that sport is strong, very strong, at the community level, at the school level, at the university level, and we're happy to say also at the international level with Nova Scotia athletes, and obviously at the national level with Canada Games, as represented there. With Team Nova Scotia's performance. So a lot to be proud of, but also the pathways there if people want to be part of it.
Wintertime sports right around the corner, right? And of course, you mentioned it briefly. There's a picture I saw from that Team Canada camp with I'll put Turnbull first, and then that kid Sydney, and that other guy Brad, and that other guy from Cole Harbour. I'm not even going to mention his name because, he's only an NHL MVP.
Yeah, that's right.
But that picture right there, I think, is it should be tacked up on in their lockers, because that's where you can go from here.
Yeah, and they're very proud Nova Scotians, all of them as well. So it's not like, okay, well, now I move on to bigger and better things. They're back here, they train.
They're spend all summer here.
Yeah, they're connected with the community. So I think that's great. And the fact that we have Ellie, the Lou and Lafrance sisters, Katie Vincent, Michelle Russell, on and on and on now, of Katie Pegg, of people that are in the community to look up to. That's wonderful. And I'm really heartened by, the sisters mentioned it, some of the corporate support now, which is coming to those athletes to support their ventures. And I think more of that will help them get through some of these difficult times financially until they get to, the best in the world.
Nate McKinnon, I'm just joshing you if you're listening. I know you're a superstar out there. Ken, I appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you.
Ken Bagnell, it's a bevy of high profile athletes that we're very blessed to have here. But we all know that those high profile athletes don't get there without a lot of support from the time they're just little wee until the time they're on that international stage. That's going to do it for the show today. Thank you for everybody who took the time out of their day to join the show and impart their knowledge. And thank you to you for dialing the numbers and joining the conversation. You make my day when you do it. Have a fantastic day, everyone. And remember, be kind to one another.